According to the Debt Rescue's festive season survey, 61% of citizens feel under pressure to spend out of their budgets when going into the festive season. What does this mean for South Africans? Well, at the beginning of each year, debt rises, with more people making credit purchases and going further into debt. With salaries not matching inflation, many citizens are struggling to keep up and budget. Debt rises and many are trapped. Citizen Cam handed the mic to citizens to hear what their daily struggles with debt are.
Unfortunately, I'm relying a lot more on credit to survive. My salary is definitely not enough in today's economy with all the rising costs. I've made a lot of sacrifices. I mean, like medical aid is one of them, luxury, DStv, things like that I've cut out. So debt does definitely have an impact on my lifestyle, and I've had to cut a lot of things this year especially. I think owning a home in this economy is a very far stretch for a lot of young South Africans especially. It's very tough to try and get to own a home, own a car, anything that's not going to put you in more financial strain in the long term.
I know transport-wise is very expensive when they come to work, and it's not easy for them to have their own transport to come to work. In the economy of today, it's not easy to survive, more especially when you are living on a location. And remember, as we are working this nowadays, we are checking the salary, if I can make it to pay my rent, if I can make it to buy food, school and everything. But it's never enough. Let me make example. She's earning 5,000. If she's earning 5,000, she's going to spend 3,000 rand for the transport. So which means she's just coming to work, she just do that change of money. Credit, it will be more and more. It will never go down. It will be more and more every day. The reason why is because of when we are short, we don't want to go anywhere. It's either they are going to mashonise, they are going to pay those 50% from mashonise. It's either they are going to ask from the families, and all of us, we are never getting enough to help each other around.
My salary is enough to cover certain basic costs, but I think the cost of living has gone up a bit. In regards to food, the economy is not really allowing for us to really live as much or buy as much things we want. But generally, I'm not that indebted, but so I'm able to survive to some extent. But generally, I'm doing fine. I'm not making a lot of sacrifices, and I think as a consumer, I've not incurred too much debt, so I'm able to sustain myself still. But if you do incur a lot of debt, it's not good for you, definitely, as a consumer. It's going to put a lot of pressure. I think, therefore, you require to, maybe if you don't get a salary increase, having too much debt is not going to help you. Or maybe that's the reason, again, why people take in too much debt, because the salary is not enough. So, yeah. Owning a home, I think it's not ideal nowadays, because the cost of owning a home is quite hard for a lot of people. As you said, the income aspect of things, it's not ideal to own a home nowadays. The pressure to own a home, to maintain a house, it's tough, especially for the younger generation.
Luckily, I don't have to use credit, but as I said to the gentleman earlier, that when you're young, the thing to do is to try not live beyond your means. And I know it's tough in this climate because things are so expensive, but if you actually look at something that you really need, stick with that old thing for a little bit longer. Save, like if you want to buy that car, don't go and buy it immediately because you see it. Rather save until you've got a good deposit, or you can actually afford to pay for it cash. That is a very good way to come to the end of your life and have means. The cost of living is high. So electricity, water, every service that there is out there is extremely expensive at the moment. So maybe try and limit what you use. So buy a home that you could rent part of it, or start renting and saving, or stay at home. Stay at home with mom and dad for longer. Doesn't always feel that easy, but it does give you a big financial footstep in the right direction.
So when it comes to the festive season, we definitely see an increase in spending. Obviously, we know that this is associated with this time of year. It's a combination of people having to buy gifts and have perhaps get-togethers and all the expenses that go with that. What we have definitely seen is an increase in reliance on various forms of credit, the biggest ones being the ones that are already available to consumers. So this would be in the form of your store card, your credit card. Those are pre-existing, pre-approved credit facilities. So in other words, you don't have to go and apply for example, a loan or anything to that effect. It's already there, you can use it. And then another trend that is increasing quite exponentially now is what is commonly referred to as buy now, pay later. So that would be a form of credit agreement where you are, say, you don't have to pay interest and you're going to pay it off over 3 months. Now, what happens with that is it's great there's no interest, but the reality is it's very easy to apply for these. And over a period of time, you are sitting with a scenario where you could have one that you took out today, one you took out a week ago, and one you took out 3 weeks ago, and they add up. So those repayments can vary, and it's 300 Rand here, another 500 Rand there, and before you know it, this places even further burden on consumer budgets. So when coming out of the festive season, we're going straight into what's now become January, because people are very stressed over their debt. But for example, if you look at households who have children, we've now got back to school, all those expenses. So a very, very stressful time for consumers once we come out of the festive season and into the new year with this debt burden that they have. When it comes to home ownership, is it feasible? It very much depends on your budget and budgeting. We've got to remember that home ownership comes with a whole bunch of responsibilities. Firstly, obviously, if you're purchasing a property, you've got transfer costs, etc., that need to be factored in. You've got to look at, if you're calculating what you can afford, are you going to be putting down a deposit, or are you going to be financing the whole home through a home loan? And then understanding that depending on where you purchase, there's water and lights, there's rates, there might be levies if you're buying into a complex, etc. So factor all of that into your budget as well when you're doing your preparation for home purchasing, and then add another buffer for, in the event that the interest rate might go up by another, say, 2 or 3%, like which happened post the pandemic. Can you still afford it? And if you can, then obviously it's definitely worthwhile. With regards to the age groups that are most affected by debt, what we are seeing, the majority of those who are truly struggling with the debt is between the 30 and 45-year-old age group. And that tends to be largely because that's also the age group where most people are buying vehicles, they are buying homes, etc. So, but at the same time, we are seeing an increase in the younger generation, the below 35, say from about 25 to 35. They might be purchasing vehicles already, so they're definitely affected as well by anything. When it comes to interest rates, and also taking into account that many of these people in that age group are perhaps at the point where they are starting to rent now, so they're having to get used to having this expense in their budget, something they may not have had before, having to buy groceries, pay for the car, pay for insurance, all these kinds of things. So definitely it's widespread, it affects everybody, and it affects all income groups as well.